for joining in. Uh, uh, and if you just joining in, please could you share so we have many people to join in. I know we should be able to have many people. We have our people in Europe. I'm sure they are awake. Nobody's sleeping, and those in the Asian, I'm sure some might be still be awake. So if you just join in, could you indicate where you are? And so that helps me know where my audience, broad-based audience are. And if you're from United States, just indicate what part of United States. If you are in Europe, just indicate what part of Europe. If you are in ground zero, just indicate ground zero. If you're in La Republique, just indicate La Republique. And you can always watch me. You can also get in touch with me on YouTube as well as I'm broadcasting. I'll also be broadcasting live on YouTube as well. So you can get me either way. You will be just fine. And if you're in La Republique, wherever you are, or if you are in any part of Africa, just indicate where you are. And once again, thank you. Today is the 17th day of February, Saturday, and thank you again for joining me live on the Facebook about the issues of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, the former British trusted territory. And thank you, Imam, for joining. And thank you, Don. And thank you. If you just joining in, just share so we have many people to tune in as well. And thank you so much. And here again, my name is Funton Daniel. I am speaking here live from the great state of Texas. Here again, and thank you. My name is Fonton Daniel. I will be speaking here from the great state of Texas, and it was nice having you. And I know we have a broad issues to talk about, a wide range of issues. Uh, Before we start, let's see. Let's Isabel. Oh, thank you. That's Isabel. And greetings to you, and greetings to your family, and greetings to your husband. And this is Daniel. And thank you for taking off your time and be able to watch. And once again, you can always get me live on YouTube as well. For whichever means that is convenience, you can always get me on YouTube. Thank you, Claude, for joining in. Uh,
See what the beginning. And yeah,
Doris, greetings, and This is the significance of our culture. This is the significance that makes us different. This is the significance that makes us exceptionalism. Greetings from Brussels. Thank you, Fisher. Thank you, Lois.
This world, if you don't have what you love what you have. So not all the leaders are equal. And when the Lord closes the door, somebody opens a window.
Thank you again. This is the music that makes us exceptionalisms. Exceptionalisms is because we have an identified culture, a culture that is well pronounced, you know. And you remember when the president of President Obama traveled to Africa, the country or the country that was uniform was chosen, or traditional wear that portray the symbolism of African traditions. The Southern Cameroon tradition was chosen as the main symbol of African traditions. So we are engraved with these symbolisms, but yet we still not free. But we've been bundled and sandwiched, and no one is looking up as though we are in existence. We are recognized as a non existence. But unfortunately, the sons and daughters that are all over this continent, we must come together as a sovereign entity, stand against the evils that may have tried to abolish our existence. But however, I am here to let the world know, and we all collectively is to let the world know that we are not a colonial territory. We are not a conquered territory. We are a sovereign people, and that we have the right to our destiny, and that the fact that we would remain silent does not mean we guarantee a certain individual or La Republique to take ownership and control of our territory. But the significance of this is because when our people were simply, it was not just an ordinary person on the street, it was not just any kind of individual, it was a broad range of categories of people of great significance and asking for a reform. The reform was that it was a meaningful way that we can operate legitimately. But unfortunately, we witness the worst brutality that one can ever imagine. And that is why we are here to let the world know that there is a nation that is undergoing uh, murdering, killing, and but we must stand together and do this because together we can find the lasting solutions to the people of the southern Cameroon. And before I proceed, I want to take a moment to thank the U.S. President. We want to take a moment to thank the U.S. government. We want to take a moment to thank um, President, the President of the United States, Donald Trump. We want to thank the U.S. Secretary of State, Tillerson. We want to thank the U.S. Department of Defense. We want to thank all United States government for its logical and analysis and continue to visualize and ensure that peace and security are maintained in the Southern Cameroon territory. But we must let the United States government understand. We know the United States government has all apparatus to see exactly what is happening in the Southern Cameroon territory. But we all must join collectively, not waiting only for the United States government. We must present this case to the American citizens as well, so that they understand that our people are going under brutal regime. I want to thank the moment to thank the U.S. Congress. I want to take the moment to thank the U.S. Senate. But I want to let them understand that our people has not been free yet, and that they are still going under the evil military brutality of La République. Southern Cameroon was not a colonial territory of La République. Southern Cameroon was a sovereign nation, and that is why I am always bringing this to people to understand where I am coming from. That the people of Southern Cameroon are a sovereign nation and they deserve their sovereignty to be heard. And they had their own colonial master. And the colonial masters is different from La République colonial masters. But the fact that the people has risen is to ensure that the fact that they have their sovereignty, they are not a colonial territory of La République. Because people with highly matured individuals asking for a reform, it's normal for a routine-free society to ask a reform. A reform is a means of which people in a different era can agree in what form of government they can agree that they can operate within a meaningful, true, simple dialogue. That does not warrant a use of military to persuade them to accept what you already have because you think you have the best. And that is why I'm bringing this to the fellow people of the great nations of the United States. Although the major media doesn't bring this to the public to understand exactly what is going on, but we have to use the opportunity of this advanced media that is equivalent to what they also have, and to be able to present this case to the fellow American people and the rest of the world to understand that our people are desperately need freedom from the evil force of La République. But before I proceed, I want to take a moment to thank the South Africa. South Africa exercised their duty. They exercise their freedom. That doesn't mean that they don't have any election in South Africa. They have an election, but maybe the former president, Jacob Zuma, maybe he was not in line with the current era of political manifestations in South Africa. But yet the people say, okay, we need a total different reform. And the South African president, Jacob Zuma, said, okay, I agree. If that's what the people want, then I have no choice to step aside for another system of government to take effect. And that is the pluralistic democracy that Africa must embrace. That you may disagree with the people. That does not mean that you should hand over power to those who believe are in accordance with the people. And therefore, without any massive killing, without any brutality. And La Republique doesn't see this as a form. La Republique believes that Paul Biya is the legitimate king of La Republique, and he is answering to the people like God, like the head is to the body. La Republique, under Paul Biya leadership, believe him is to the people like the head is to the body. And so therefore, he knows everything the people need, and therefore the people has no right to question him or her. And therefore, every individual, even including the military, are obligated to abide by him, despite the fact that he is 85 years old and worth less to the society of the people. But South Africa exercised that duty by turning his resignation. South Africa, Jacob Zuma, exercised that duty by returning his power to the consent of those whom he derived that power. And he handed over without any single gunshot. He did this in a simple democratic way and transfer power. And now South Africa is moving on. And Jacob Zuma is also moving on. That is the society we are talking about. That is the society Africa must embrace. That is the system Africa must stand by. I also want to congratulate the Ghanaian president giving a good lecture to the French president, Emmanuel Macron. The Ghanaian president make it clear France can come in as economic partner, but France cannot come in as a deciding member of African descent or African continent. You know, France thinks that Africa is a part of France, and that France must manage its internal affairs. France is the sole deciding member of what happened to Africa. But I am here to let France know that Africa has moved forward to a different era, and that France no longer a control partner of France, but France should come as a business partner and discuss relatively business related to Africa as a whole, not dictating what Africa must do according to the wishes of France. It is very, very regretful, and one must witness incidences that just happen, and one will understand the differences between the French system and the Anglo-Saxon system. In a typical French system, when the Southern Cameroon are advocating for political and economic reform, France did not absolutely recognize that the Southern Cameroon are people of intellectual, are people of well-educated, are people that deserve the right to freedom, are people that have not only this, even if a stewardship will realize that Africa, especially when it comes those in the diaspora would have signaled France that these people back home advocating for a change. It's not just those back home, it includes those in the diaspora who are the brain eyes of those at home. And if those in the diaspora are advocating for a change, it is an obligation for France to be on the side of the diaspora, otherwise they would be on the wrong side of the people. But France did not notice that. When the Southern Cameroon began getting frustrated with La Republique, instead of France dispatch its civilian authority to ask La Republique that their people want a total reform, and that the reform is what the minimum the people can accept. But instead, France dispatched the military of occupation to Douala seaport, and some other military were dispatched to Simalan Airport in Yaoundé. And if I did use this argument, their thought is they want to quell down the uprising in La République. If imaginally France thought they want to quell down the uprising in La République because it's a French colony. But unfortunately, France has a wrong judgment. They thought we are in the 50s, in the 60s, when they used their military and deduce and kill the people of the Bamileke. They killed those in the Bassas in the littoral province. I am sure they must be realized what happened to them, the Bassas and the people of the Bamilekes. And France still think that Africa is still in the 50s, in the 60s, that they just have to assume what France decided and that they must use their military wing and suppress the people. And when you look at two parallel of the same system, when the Southern Cameroon or the Anglophones request for a British intervention, first, Britain did not send a military wing to La République. First, it sent the Commonwealth Secretary General, which is a civilian. It is a civilian to participate and find out exactly what is the need of these people that are my colonial territory. And the second, they dispatched Africa Minister for African Affairs, who is recently, I don't know if he left Camp La République yet, but he sent a minister. It's a civilian society. And that minister traveled to Cameroon in La République to find out exactly what is going on with the English colony. Britain did not send the marine system. Britain did not send the Department of Defense. Britain did not send the military wing. Those are the two different things that one can be able to counter, differentiate between the British system of government and the French system of government. Before I proceed again, in the 50s, in the 60s, when the United Nations, Article 76B of the United Nations, it states that all the colonial territory, all the territory that were under the control of the Allied forces should be prepared for immediate independence. Article 76B of the United Nations, that is what it states. When Britain were preparing his own Southern Cameroon for eventual independence or whatever political platform they will be choosing for them, Britain organized elections. There were political parties. And first of all, there was Ndele that was elected the first prime minister of Southern Cameroon. The British administrator was residing in Enugu government, Enugu in Nigeria. And when Ndele won as the first prime minister of Southern Cameroon, he presented to the Enugu House of Assembly that this is a democratic government that I have participated and won. And I am looking forward to announce my cabinet. They were recognized because it is a government elected by the people, present to the British administrator. On the other hand, the French system had no form of any government system that could be represented. Instead, France was busy murdering the people of the Bassa. France was busy murdering the people of the Bamileke. And rather than organizing a meaningful platform of a political structure that the people will be able to present as a structure. And you will imagine that while they were busy murdering those leaders using helicopter, bombarding the target, most of them were rushing for a safety net in the southern Cameroon territory. Most of the people of the Bassas and the Bamilekes, they were rushing to the southern Cameroon territory for a safety net, looking for an environment where they can reside and be able to operate. But unfortunately, while there was a true democratization process going on in the southern Cameroon territory, and up to now that we are still not free. And that is why, because France knew that Amadou Ahidjo was a stewardship of the French system. And that is why they support his candidacy and make sure that all members of the UPC were suppressed. In doing so, UPC was banned by the French authority in the La République territory. Because what did the UPC stood for? They stood for a meaningful political reform, just as a meaningful political reform that was demanded by the southern Cameroon because of the relationship that we have with La République. We are not a colonial territory of La République. We are not a conquered territory of La République. We are a sovereign nation, and that the fact that we choose to live with La République does not guarantee La République or giving authority of La République as a supreme over the southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is a legitimate country on its own, and the same nations that authorized or granted La République as a sovereign nation in 1960 is the same nation that granted the people of the Southern Cameroon as a sovereign nation. The people have the right to their freedom. They have the right to exercise their duty, whatever they choose to. It is their duty, the prerogative right to ask La République that at any moment, at any time, that the relationship that we are currently having, we need to revise. And La République has an obligation to abide by those who request those decisions. Likewise, they can choose that we are moving ahead to our total complete separation. They have the prerogative and authority to do so. The fact that French has Sonora in Limbe does not guarantee that authority over the Southern Cameroon. That is an investment. The people of Southern Cameroon has authority over their territory, over any form of investment, not La République. La République is simply a relationship that we have chosen. Invite La République that let's work together for the mutual benefit of both nations. That does not give La République authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. Sonara is a simply investment. Southern Cameroon has authority to ask the French system that this is your investment. We want this investment to be done in the Southern Cameroon territory. They have the legal authority over La République. La République is simply a country on its own, has no legal authority, has no binding over the people of Southern Cameroon. I am making this statement clear that Sonara is a French investment in the Southern Cameroon territory. France has no authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. Likewise, the people of Southern Cameroon has no authority over France territory. If a Southern Cameroon travel to France, it is required to get a visa to operate in Southern Cameroon. And if Southern Cameroon choose to invest in France, they seek authority from France to carry on such investment. And French has the legal authority to respect those investments. And that individual must be governed by the rules and regulations govern the French authority. La République is a nation on its own. La République has no legal authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is not a secessionist. Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation that voted in the United Nations as a sovereign nation in 1961. The fact that they choose La République, that we can work together to live as a common district, that does not leave La République an authority, a supreme authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. The fact is that though France is a colonial territory of La République, that does not give a legitimate authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon have the legitimate right to choose whatever they want. Though a certain individuals of the Anglophone expression, because of their being doomed by La République, they are not legal authority binding whatever is governed by the Southern Cameroon. They are simply a stewardship that have been antagonized by La République and thought as a means of their aims rather than the aims of the people they govern. I want to make this clear. France has no legal authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. France has its legal authority over the people of France. I mean, it is very, very fortunate. It is a bizarre. The people of African descent, they look on France as an imaginary country, imaginary being that control the West Africa. Africa must have its authority to be able to manage its finances. Africa must have authority. Why should African finances be managed by Caisse Communautaire Française in Paris? Does French Caisse Communautaire Française is being managed in Africa? Absolutely no. Africa must have its legitimate authority, must have its legitimate currency, must have its legitimate value for the people whom they govern. And that is what South Africa exercise, that they can rise above the leader and the leader must respect the sovereignty of the people. And that is exactly what South Africa exercise. And that is what the Ghanaian president stood and verbally expressed it to the French authority, that the fact that you come to Africa as a partner does not guarantee you as a deciding force for the African continent or the African descent. Africa must have its currency. Africa must manage its currency. They must have an effective government, a government that represents the people, a government that the arm of government is separate, and that each individual arm of government must check and balancing, and that economic prosperity can be able to reign, and that the people can once stood up and benefit for the reality of being what they are. You know, so let me drift you back again. As I earlier said that when the Southern Cameroon demand a reform, La République choose a military suppressing the people of Anglophone as though Southern Cameroon was a colonial territory of La République. I am here to clarify those notions that many have in that perception that Southern Cameroon is a colonial territory. Is a secessionist, people must use their language within the text in which that language is defined. Right now, as I'm speaking, the interim government of the Southern Cameroon, the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, has been taken and we don't know where they are. And La République thinks they can use whatever means. I am here, I have a good news that I will tell La République what must be done to get rid of La République out of our territory. We must do it and we must get rid of La République out of our sovereign territory. And we will introduce a reform that meets the aspiration of the people of the Southern Cameroon and that meet the aspiration of the general free society. That is the society I am advocating. That is the society I stood for, and that I will support. A freedom of the people to decide what their destiny should look like and what reflection of their destiny should be within the level of the realm of the society rather than the realm of the brutal dictatorship. I mean, imagine having someone in power for 35 years. He believed that he is the supreme being, the being that no one has no question over his authority. That is why I am here to tell La République, I have a good news for you, La République. The Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation. The Southern Cameroon must rise. The Southern Cameroon must stand for its freedom. And the Southern Cameroon must get rid of La Republic out of the sovereignty. And we must build the Southern Cameroon that La Republic will admire in the future. When the French was involved in the murder of the people of Southern Israel, middle of East Africa, the people were murdered because of the French policy. France has no interest that benefit the indigenous of the people. France is out for exploitative purpose rather than the interest of the genuine people. And yet, the people are suffering. Yet, the people don't lack basic food on the table. If Sonara, France thinks his property, Sonara, is being given by La République, I want to let France know. I want to bring this to the attention of the France that Sonara is a property, is inside Southern Cameroon territory. It's not in La République. And the people of Southern Cameroon have the negotiating to decide the content, how the content should be distributed, not La République. If France doesn't want to acknowledge that the people of the Southern Cameroon, the people of the British former trusted territory, they have the legitimate right. I have a good news for France that you can choose now and act now, or we choose stay apart, and we shall see where we shall going to end. Because the people of the Southern Cameroon has the legitimate right over their sovereignty. La République is a colonial territory. Look in your archive, invest in your archive, and look the historical fact that the people of Southern Cameroon, they deserve to have their property exploited according to the wishes of the people and not La République. It is very, very unfortunate when the British Minister for African Affairs, when she traveled to see the issues that is affecting the people of the Anglophones, because they derive their cultural aspect, their form of government from the British, and she was snubbed by the Etudi. She was snubbed. She wasn't even regarded as somebody. She was just looked upon as somebody who happened to be visiting Cameroon like a stranger. She was not even allowed to even have an audience in the Tudi. Well, she traveled to Buea because that's the capital she recognized. That is where the people are supposed to be living. That is the government that's supposed to reside in Buea. And she went to Buea to see for herself the capital of the Anglophone territory, and that we shall stood up as a sovereign nation, and we will let La Republic understand that until the voice of the people are pronounced and the government of the Southern Cameroon are installed in Buea, we shall not in any way recognize La Republic, and we shall make sure that we stand together firmly and get rid of La Republic, and we will do it as unanimously. And we are asking those currently serving in La Republic that any attempt made by La Republic by instigating or brutalizing the citizens of the Southern Cameroon, we shall come after you, and we are working with whoever. We're not going to reveal whom we are working with. We will let you understand that we are a sovereign nation. We don't take yes for a yes. We don't take no for a no, but we take yes for the sovereignty of our territory. And we are asking La Republic, it's time for you to vacate the territory and reside in La Republic and function in La Republic, because we are ready. If I want to reaffirm this, if you are a La Republic and you are currently residing in Southern Cameroon, whoever capacity, and know that you have been assigned or appointed as an official capacity to residing in Southern Cameroon by La Republic, I am asking you relinquish your position and return back to La Republic, because we shall come after you. It's just the beginning. If you are residing in southern Cameroon and your authority or your power has been exercised to you by La Republique, I am asking you simple and once more, relinquish your power and return to La Republique, because we shall come after you. We have got enough of La Republique. We have got enough of La Republique, and we want to make this abundantly clear. And anybody or whoever is negotiating with La Republique, I am making this clear to you. I understand Frundi is becoming a black leg, but I want to let Frundi understand that I stand for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. He can choose whatever he is, but the people must rise against the evil and the black legs, because sir, we have got enough for the past 56 years. You have disturbed the people of the Southern Cameroon, and you haven't got the leadership that you need. You were being frustrated when you got an election that you won, but you were not recognized. You were regarded because you belong to the Anglo-Saxon heritage. And now the people has risen, and you want to become the black leg. I have a good news for you. I have a good news for those parliamentarians that are residing in the Southern Cameroon territory. If you move an inch to La Republique, stay in La Republique and do not return to the Southern Cameroon territory, because we shall come after every individual. Our capital is in Buea. If you leave La Republique, if you leave Southern Cameroon, wherever you've been elected, and you travel to Buea, yes, you can deliberate whatever position you deliberate in Buea. But if you travel to Yaoundé, that you are going for a deliberation, just remain in there and do not return to the Southern Cameroon territory, because we shall repatriate you back to La Republique in different form. This is a serious warning to those individuals. This is a serious warning to those individuals, because the past 56 years has been a 56 years of rotting this of La Republique, using the people, their investment. I mean, the entire investment of the Southern Cameroon has all been squandered out. The bank of the Southern Cameroon that has excess surplus is no longer available. The construction company that was in Southern Cameroon that carried on road maintenance is no longer available. The marketing board is no longer available. The cocoa plantation is no longer available. Everything has all been squandered out and used by La Republique, despite the fact that the Anglophones are accountable, good accountability of its economic structure. And yet the people cannot stand and proud of its economic system. But because La Republique has squandered every aspect of the revenue that was generated, when the British Crown was providing subventions to its colonial territory, Southern Cameroon was never given, because they had good managerial skills, they had surpluses, and that is why the Crown recognized that they were instead getting revenue from the Southern Cameroon territory rather than sending subvention to the Southern Cameroon territory. The CDC was a prosperous part of that investment, and yet La Republique has nothing. France did not provide absolutely zero investment in La Republique. France, absolute zero investment. They were busy murdering the people rather than empower the people economically, politically, socially, and culturally. France wasn't. The African descent, instead of France creating their own financial investment that they're able to manage themselves, France created his own financial caisse communautaire français. When the army borrow money, France take the money and keep it in a caisse communautaire français in France and borrow the same money to Africa. And Africa is paying double, triple interest over the same amount of money. And yet they claim They are being supported by the French authority. It is absolutely ridiculous to see people without intellectual capability to be able to reason out that these are dubious French authority. This is absolutely a dubious French authority. It's dubious. But those individuals that they are in La République. Those individuals that they are parliamentarian, those individuals that they claim that they belong to a certain parliamentarian, I have a good news for you. Everyone monitor all their cars. It's called the CA or Cameroon, whatever authority or parliamentarian. Once you see them travel to La République, let them know that as they travel, they should stay there. They shouldn't return to the southern Cameroon because they will be returned back to La Republic in a different form. This is a clear warning to La Republic, to those they call the black legs of the southern Cameroon, because as we struggle within the international community to liberate the southern Cameroon once and for all, so that we can stand and be proud of our territory, and that we don't have to rely on a certain La Republic to tell us how we should live our life. But those who stand as the black leg, let them know, because they shouldn't return back to the southern Cameroon. They should take their refuge back in La Republic. Otherwise, they must abide by the southern Cameroon regulation. As our interim leaders are still languishing in La Republic, we have a good news for you. We will let you know when the news is released, and it shall be happening as things occur. And we have the governor of Southwest, who is now residing in Douala and driving back and forth. Please, we have a good news for you. Let him know that we are waiting for him on the halfway between Douala and Southern Cameroon, and that is where we're gonna return him back in his right form. Because the southern Cameroon is no longer the colonial territory of La Republic. The people has gone under excruciating form that we must let La Republic know that the people of southern Cameroon is now a sovereign nation. They must be free. And if you are a partner, let La Republic know, because we are serious about this. The era of nuisance has come and gone. But now it is time for our authority must be exercised in a gradually, and that our nation must be respected. United Nations head office, that is physically here in the United States. I am asking the fellow Americans, I am asking the fellow congressional I am asking the US Senate, because the people of Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation. They want their freedom, they have risen, and they must stand firmly. And United Nations, which is head office here, if United Nations head office was in Asia, was in China, where they have the communist system, then I would have been wondering where my voice shall be heard. But as it is in the land of the free society, in the land where the United States government, a government that is accountable, a government that represents the people, I am present that the United Nations office here in the United States that is not living up to its obligations, and that the people are suffering, the people are being murdering, and that the people cannot stand for their freedom, because we have a leadership a leadership crisis in the United Nations office here in the United States. You know, The people cannot stand and be proud. If United Nations office was in Russia, and I will understand that it is a communist system, they will obviously stand for Communist Manifesto. But because it is here in the United States, it is in the land where people stand for their freedom. It is the land that stood for freedom of the rest of the world. It is the land that the people advocate that the people of the decent society must have a decent living and that they must be recognized. But the United Nations office that is physically here in New York, here in the United States, is not living up to its obligations to ensure that peace and security are being respected, because that is why you see in Libya, humans are being used as a shield when they are being murdered, and the United Nations remains silent. He's speaking now because although the United Nations representative was not aware of what is happening in Libya, but they remained silent until the images started resurface. That is when he stood up and talked about it. Now he doesn't talk about the Southern Cameroon, the brutality that is currently going on in the Southern Cameroon, because the images are being shielded. But I have a good news of the United Nations. As soon as I start releasing all those images of the atrocity of La Republique in the Southern Cameroon territory, I am sure your position must be relinquished, because you have failed in all aspects as a leader of this international body. The leaders of the international body known as the United Nations must stand for the respect of the dignity of human beings, rather than for the interest of a self-individual, rather than for the common good of the nations. You are now speaking about the Libyan crisis because the images are resurfacing and are showing in the major media. Now you'll be able to stood and condemn and ask for investigation. When you travel to the Southern Cameroon, when you travel to La Republique, you are given gold. You are awarded a gold. Did you travel to the area that has been affected? That should have been your prerogative right to travel to the Southern Cameroon and realize exactly what is going on there. You ignore it because you have been shielded with the gold and maybe some bunch of money, and you are physically here in the United States. I have a good news for you, the Secretary General of the United Nations, that the people of the United States shall stood up against your position, because you are not doing your job as you're supposed to. You are messing the human dignity. You are allowing evil dictatorship and murdering people rather than recognize a sovereign nation that the document is physically in your office. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely. Your appointees lack knowledge. Francois Lefort of the Central African region, you are represented at the Central African region. He lacked knowledge, he lacked skill, he lacked understanding the topography of the Southern Cameroon. He failed to acknowledge that the people of Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation that voted in the same office building that you appointed him, that they are a sovereign people, and that the United Nations voted for their sovereignty in your office. And when they voted, you failed to recognize that they people have the right to ask whether are we living the country that we were voted for. No, they are not. And yet, when you travel, you consume your gold and the bribery package that was sent to you, and yet the people are being murdered. And we have 40,000 people that are languishing in Nigeria, and yet you have nothing to say about it. You remain silent because you have been awarded a gold medal. You have been awarded the bribery as you travel to Central African region, and yet the people are being murdered. I have a good news for you. My government that I trust, my government here in the United States, my government that I respect shall stand against you, because as we start releasing those images of the atrocity of La Republique against the sovereign decent people, the people have the right to their freedom. They have the right to decide what their destiny. They have no right to be managed by La Republique. La Republique is a sovereign nation, and they can choose to do whatever they do in their Republique because of the relationship they have with France's atrocity. When the Commonwealth Secretary General traveled amid La Republique, he says they should allow inclusive dialogue. open without any preconditions. Instead of La République respect the decision that was made by the Commonwealth Secretary General, instead he succumbed to send 500 billion CFA to arrest, to bribe the Nigerian government. He sent 500 billion CFA to bribe and arrest, bribe the Nigerian government because it's a corrupt system in Nigeria. And the useless Nigerian authority just simply accept the bribery and take up the interim government and hand over to La République. And yet we don't know exactly where they are, whether they still bring this natural air, and yet we don't know. That was the exclusive dialogue that was asked by the Commonwealth Secretary General to La République. They ignore it. They fail to understand that that was the Commonwealth Secretary General requesting that they need an open dialogue that there's no preconditions. And yet the people were being arrested and sandwiched in La République because the people are not worth a living. But I have a good news for you, La République. The news will be coming. And those individuals, especially Issa Shiruma, he claimed he had a patriotism. Remember, you were the organizer of the coup d'etat that happened in La République against the same regime. Today you are out. I have a good news for you. It's coming sooner than later. Let Issa Shiruma, he thinks he is the sole ruler. He was the organizer of the coup d'etat that happened, and he escaped. He was sent to jail, and he didn't recognize that. The Northeast, if they are fighting to separate, they are secessionists. If Issa Shiruma, at the time of the coup d'etat, he is fighting for the Northern to stay separate, that is a secessionist. If Issa Shiruma was starting a coup d'etat for the separation of the Northern against the La République, that is a secessionist. And that should be dealt with. But when the Southern Cameroon, the descent people of the Southern Cameroon, when they choose to leave La République, that is not the secessionists. They are restoring what belongs to them because they were granted independence in the 1961 by the same body that granted La République. For those who are memory construed or those memory frozen. Issa Shiruma, he thinks he has. I have a good news for you. It's coming. The good news is coming. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely. When a decent society, when a decent people think about freedom, they want a freedom that they should be able to exercise their freedom at will. And the people have the right, the legitimate, that the government whom they think of is the government that actually represents them. The government that is able to advocate for their freedom. The government that they can be able to exercise and question the government, whether does the government function within the aspiration of the people whom they have elected them. But when a government that failed in all this aspect of having a legitimate authority. The people has the legitimate authority, and that government derives its legitimate authority from the people whom they govern. And once the same people question that existence of that government, the government has to disembarkate and allow the people to take over this legitimacy. But when you have a certain individual that stays in power for 35, 36 years. Then one began to wondering, is it what they call chantier, c'est mon chantier, c'est mon jardin que je vais manger comme je veux. Donc n'importe qui ne peut pas me déranger. Donc je dois faire tout ce que je veux. Donc il n'y a aucun droit, il n'y a aucune loi qui peut me dire qu'est-ce que je dois faire. Non, moi je suis le supreme leader du pays, du gouvernement, et je peux dire tout n'importe. I have a good news for you. The people of the Anglophone has a reason to tell you that the people is a sovereign nation. They must be free, and they must be free. You know. You know, the atrocity that is occurring is because the news media here in the Western society are just simply ignore the reality. They simply ignore the reality. And so that's what we want to take a moment to thank the Facebook, the YouTube to provide this opportunity that we will use to x-ray the society to see exactly what is happening. Because we have gotten that opportunity, but we must exercise that duty. Because you cannot imagine you calling your home, you realize that your mother's farm has been burned down. Your little mother's small home that they built, probably it took them, their saving, probably for 15, 20 years to manage their saving, to be able to invest and build a small little family that they appreciate and they are growing, you know? And they realize that La République that has no authority, no legitimacy over the people of the southern Cameroon, and will send this atrocity to murder them and burn them. Don't imagine a 90 years mother who was living in a fabulous life, and she was very healthy, and she was burnt alive by the evil force of La République, and yet they're asking me to dialogue with the stupid La République. And any individual that is currently residing in southern Cameroon, when I recall the burnt mother of 90 years old in his own territory, that he should be live on and see the freedom of his own land that he has seen before, and that to become a sovereign nation, but she was burned down alive. And any individual from La République that is crossing the southern Cameroon territory must return in a different structure, in different form. Any individual that is La République and has been appointed by La République and is heading to the southern Cameroon territory must be returned in different form. We've got enough of La République. We've got enough. We've got enough. We have our interim government. Now we have an acting president. They thought by arresting the interim government they simply close. They simply open the door for more leaders to emerge, because the last person shall proclaim the southern Cameroon as a free nation. They think by arresting the interim government and the cabinet, they have arrested the southern Cameroon. I have a good news for you, that a different government has been made, and the acting government will take the same position and will pursue the same goal and the same objective until the last person will proclaim Southern Cameroon as a sovereign nation, and then the generation will then grow and maintain where they left behind. We must stand together, firmly unified, and get rid of La République from the Southern Cameroon territory. I want to take a moment to thank you. I want to take a moment to understand that we, the people of Southern Cameroon, have vested education system. We have a vested value and cultural aspect that are well dignified within the society of the free world. We value this because it is sovereign to us. We believe in a universal freedom. We all travel to these wonderful great nations of the rest of the world. We all have studied. We all have learned the value of free justice system. And we cannot stand and admire Why there are people are being murdered? Because we want to be the good guys. We want to be the good boys. We want to be recognized because we have to travel back home. I have a good news for you, because as we stand together firmly, unify, and kick La Republic out of the territory, we all can get our own plane and land it in Boya. We all can get our own plane and land it in Tico. We all can land it in Boya. Yet, we don't want to value that. While our country was granted as a sovereignty in 1961 by United Nations, we don't have even a single airport that you can travel and land it. You must go to La Republique, because La Republique is the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon that must determine the future of Southern Cameroon. I have a good news for La Republique. People of the Anglophone, they should be able to take on their own car. They should be able to take on their train. They should be able to land in their own capital. Just as La Republique had landed in Littoral and landed in Garoua and landed in Yaoundé. But yet we have to go there and listen to their lecture. And sometimes they are picked and sent to wherever they choose. Why we can't even go to our own home? But because we have to be a colonial territory. We were granted the same sovereignty, the same body that granted La Republique, and we cannot stand and become the colonial territory of La Republique. And we must stand up tall and exercise our duty as a sovereign people. I know there are people that are so afraid, they don't want to voice their concern, they don't want to open their mouth, because they think that they are the people that they are the good old guys, the good old boys. But we must come together as a one nations, as a one people, and people of decent society, because as we exercise this duty, we are exercising for the common good of our sovereignty, because we are not a breakaway. We are a decent people asking for a freedom for our people, so that they can stand and be proud of, as you stood up because you want to be a good old boys, a good old girls, and that we be recognized as the people of La Republique. I have a good news for you, that we must come together and we must exercise that duty. And those freedom must come, and we must stood up against the evil enemy. And we can one day and say, we have liberated the people of the Southern Cameroon. And I have a good news for La Republique, that those individuals that you are appointed, and they are so blockheaded and are carrying their mighty head and headed to the Southern Cameroon territory. I have a good news for you. If you have been appointed by La Republique and you are headed to the Southern Cameroon, you shall be returned in a different form. Thank you, and talk to you again maybe later today or tomorrow. Have a good day.